Good morning, everyone. Ricardo Wilkins here again for another weekly session of Teams office hours. Just because I feel like today I don't trust my headset. Can you hear me? I just posted, can you hear me? Just give me a thumbs up on that, a couple of you if you can hear me, just to be sure. But I think I'm good. So we are going to jump into this again. Again, as always, this is about just having a half hour available for you to come on and really ask anything in the Q&A chat. And thanks again for hitting the thumbs up on the can you hear me? So that makes me feel better. But this is for coming in and asking any questions you may have on any topic related to Teams. So at any time, feel free to put that in the Q&A chat window. I'll be monitoring that throughout this broadcast. But besides that, I usually try to talk about a little topic as I let you marinate on what questions you want to ask. And today, as I take this slide off and go to my demo environment, one of the things I was thinking about this week to talk about is this idea of using what might not be a well-known little button here, but which is very useful for me. If you can see here, this quote button. I would like to show a few examples of how that is useful in chat for maybe making some of your communications a little clearer, and also how it can be useful for bringing people out of their inbox and over into Teams, just for overall adoption of Teams and making chats clearer. And I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. I will say first off, and I don't know that I'm not really set up to show a mobile phone experience here, but I will say in the mobile phone, I believe when you are chatting with someone and you reply to a particular chat message, it actually, I think, kind of does what I'm about to show manually, in that it quotes the previous or the chat you're replying to, prior to your post. So again, I don't have a quick way of showing that in that mobile phone experience, but that's something you can try out to see what I mean, and it'll probably make more sense after I kind of go through this. But let me show my little example that I was thinking about. Once again, anytime, post a message in Q&A, and I'll be checking that out. But what I like to do is use quotes for to show an easy way of referring someone to something that they said, for instance. So let's say, let's go here to Ricardo's email in this example here, which I believe is here, obviously. So here is a message from the administrator to Ricardo with some nice words about welcoming the team and whatnot. Now, this is email. I could certainly hit reply and start to say whatever I want to say on this, but I am in my scenario in an organization trying to make more use of Teams. And my rule of thumb is, if I think I'm about to get in a email conversation that may be a series of 1 or 2 sentences with each email, or it may be a chatty conversation, me and the administrator here maybe going back and forth as we have a conversation about this email. To me, that makes it more applicable to a to a Teams chat experience. So rather than me saying, blah, 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 and talking in this email and sending a reply, what I like to do, I tend to go ahead and hit reply anyway, just so that I can grab this. I want to highlight and copy the, like the header information and the actual email, assuming it's relatively short. There is a limit to what I'm about to do here, but I'm going to copy that and I'm going to come over to Teams, go to private chat, and fire up a new conversation with the administrator. And in here, you can see we have talked, but my retention policy has purged some of the older ones, so we got a nice little fresh start here. I'm going to fire up a new message with the format button, give myself a couple spaces in the front, and I'm going to paste that here, the exact text of the email. Then I'm also going to highlight that and hit my wonderful quote button. I also sometimes even hit the italics just for the look of it. So what that has given me is that message in a nice little gray box. And from there, I proceed to do my replies. Maybe even with a nice little at mention. So as you can see here, hopefully it's usually obvious to most people that would get a message like this that the gray box is, you know, the content or the thing that I'm trying to reply to with this message. And so what I find is, you know, people who will send me an email and then I use this approach, I haven't gotten a lot of pushback. You would think that maybe somebody might say, hey, I had no intention of using Teams here. That's why I sent you an email, and then proceed to try to email me back in Teams. I don't normally see that. This usually works, that I bring this over here, and then in this case, the mod administrator proceeds to continue to have a conversation in Teams. So I've now avoided all these emails and really brought us to a place where it's probably a little more convenient for us to have a back-to-back conversation. But I've done that in a way. It would be different if I were to just come over here and say, thanks for that email that you sent me about welcome team, you know, and then the administrator's got to try to remember what I sent and all that. I can, you know, literally show him what he sent, when, and all that good stuff. There is a limit here. If this was a really large message I tried to copy and paste, Teams will tell me, hey, you need to shorten your message before you can send it. So, you know, you may have to, you know, kind of curate it a little to get it to fit if it's really long, or maybe just grab the key piece that you really want to reply to. But this is a nice technique for me to really two reasons, right? One is I'm trying to avoid adding more emails to my inbox that's already full of emails, especially for something that is really chat. And then also it is encouraging the use of Teams and you know, hopefully showing this person, you know, the value of a Teams chat over email, right? So helping with adoption, helping to nudge my fellow team member over in the Teams, but also helping myself and that getting less emails. So that's a nice little tactic. And again, that quote button here, I just think is super useful for that. Even in the Outlook, I think there's a similar formatting of a quote. If I were to, I think, go to the styles here. This one is quote. I just don't. I mean, I don't like that. You know, I don't like the way that looks. I like the way Teams does it, right? That looks nice. Got a little. It's very barely visible. If you try this on your own, you'll see it. But there's a very subtle little gray line on the side, and then this darker gray piece in the middle. In my Teams, I am usually in dark mode, so it kind of shows up nice from that perspective too. So I like that. I don't know what you think about that, but I like that. Go back to the default mode here. So that's kind of my approach for bringing an email over into a chat, but let's take it even further. Let's go that same message that administrator sent me in an email. If I come over here to my Teams, they also sent that, or let's say in this scenario, they had instead sent that in here in a Teams message, right? So the same content. And so I may want to, just say a simple, thanks or whatever. Obviously, we're in Teams. I don't have to do anything special to kind of keep the conversation in Teams. But there's a few things said in these couple of paragraphs that this person has said, and I want to reply to some specific parts of it. For instance, here they said, obviously this is just sample text, but here they said that I'm here to help us achieve X number of goals. I may want to inquire, what is that number of goals or something like that, right? And I'm gonna copy this here. Now I could just reply, especially with this one being a very simple couple of statements. I could just reply, what do you mean by X number, blah, 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 right? But another way to approach that, if I hit the format button here, is to Control V, paste that, maybe italicize it, and then hit my nice quote button. And then say, what do you mean? All right, and hit that. So, again, as you can see, just visually, I just kind of like the thought of that, and maybe what I could have done. I'm going to tap up twice. This is a little tip as well. Tapping twice on your up button on the keyboard, tap, tap, takes me right into edit mode of my previous post. And I'm going to say just to make that maybe look a little, I don't know, I'm just a stickler for that kind of thing. What do you mean? And then maybe I have questions about other parts, right? Maybe this part here, I want to grab, Control C, come down here, Control V, italicize, quote it. All right, and then blah, 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 blah. So again, as you're starting to see here, again, I just like the look of this. I'm able to, make a comment on a specific part of what someone's saying. And especially if someone else is reading this, obviously it's me talking to the administrator, but someone else reading this, again, for any particular post, it's very clear what I'm referring to. They don't have to necessarily go back and forth and understand the full context of everything that got said here if they really are only interested in this one little part about the number of goals. So I thought that was interesting, this idea of using the quote button to kind of get that approach. Again, in the mobile version, the mobile client, when you are replying to a specific post, I believe it does this automatically, and you don't get, it kind of does it on its own, so you don't get the options kind of that I did here of whether or not I want it to be italicized or adding, the dots and things like that. But it does essentially do that kind of thing. So not sure why they didn't add the same concept automatically in the desktop client, but it's only a couple button clicks to actually get it to happen that way. So yeah, so there's the quoting within a like Teams chat. Same thing could happen here within private chat as well. All right, this idea of the quote. Now, obviously, it's more. The quote is meant for more than just referring to what someone said. I mean, anytime I'm really adding text that I got from somewhere else, I use that quote button to kind of call it out. I sometimes even use it. And then I might put a URL there, but then even that one I might quote just to call it out, so anything I want to call out, that one button, putting that nice gray box around it, I don't know, I just like the look of it. I feel like it not only looks professional, but really, just visually helps bring my attention to the parts, or bring the person that I'm talking to, bring their attention to what it is I'm trying to highlight. So the quote button for chats, I thought was an interesting little topic. So I don't know if anybody out there has used it before, but I thought it was cool. I guess that would specifically be just for Teams. I mean, that other than Outlook, which has a version that I'm not too thrilled about. I don't know if that quote feature really has a use in a lot of other areas. So just something to think about. So I hope that was interesting. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Trying to think about some other things that have come my way since we last met. That chat in general. Again, I maybe calling out again. I don't know how many people has actually seen the effect of a retention policy being applied to chat. Obviously, in Teams, your retention policies, you can say something like, "Hey, a deletion policy that says after 30 days purge some, the chats in my Teams." I can't remember exactly what I did here with this particular policy, but clearly it has purged some older messages. So while me and mod administrator, typically, everything's persistent in Teams. So me and this administrator have been talking in the past, but as we can see here, those are now gone, purged by the retention policy, and they get a nice message letting us know that has happened, which is nice because otherwise I might think something has gone wrong. Why don't I see my chats from the administrator? So hopefully you can kind of see that we've deleted older messages due to your org's retention policy, and a nice little link to take you out to learn a little more about retention policies and how they work. Got plenty of information out there for that, and even how to go about setting those policies and within the Security and Compliance Center. So Teams chat works with retention policies just like your files and your email have been doing as well. We do, so question here, we do not have have the Teams option in our Teams app. Is there any way to do all of this in chat? Meaning replying to one chat and then being able to collapse the discussion so you just see topics like you can see in Teams function. So we do not have the Teams option in our Teams app. I'm not sure I understand. Maybe if you can reply with some additional comment here. The replying to one chat and then being able to collapse the discussion so you just see topics. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly what that question is asking. Teams option in our Teams app. Yep, I can't. Yeah, if you could maybe add another, comment there to kind of speak to that a little bit more, that may help. But I'm not sure what that question is asking. Teams option. Yeah. Yeah, please provide a little bit more detail there. What else do we got going on here? Let's see. Really trying to think about that question. Just see topics. Yeah, I just can't. Yeah, if you could put one more clarifying comment, I just can't. I can't think about. I can't understand what that one is really asking there. I will also say, I know many of the folks that attend this are part of my government customers and state and local government. I think the 3x3 screens are rolling out as we speak. That should be a fun time for you. Yeah, and today you get 4 screens when you're in a meeting. You'll soon get 9. So I'm hearing that that's starting to show up in GCC. So you should be getting those here soon. So it's just a nice little, if you didn't know that was coming, give you that little tip today. So I can only use chat to talk with my department. I do not have the ability to create a team for discussion. Oh, okay. So so it sounds like you have chat here, um, and maybe you're in teams, but you don't have the ability to join or create a team. And so typically, at least with my customers, that typically is a case that most organizations decide that only certain people should get the power to create a team. So you can certainly be added to teams and do all the things in teams except create a team. That's an additional uh, power that someone would give you. And most of my customers do decide that only a few people can create that. The thought, I think, is, they're trying to avoid sprawl of everyone creating their own team. So if the fact that you don't see this is not uncommon, I guess. And in fact, and if you feel you need to see it, I would say talk with your IT folks about, requesting that privilege or power. But it is certainly not uncommon for end users to not see that in an organization because they've turned that off, or only made that for a few people, or only want it to be created by a ticketing system or something like that. So yeah, I get it now. Yep. Yeah, most people don't tend to see that join or create a team. Well, they see it, but you don't see the create team button there. That being said, so yes, you can have chats in the one-to-one chat area. Obviously, you can have chats in the teams that you're in, but if you were trying to make a team specific to bring other members in and to chat with them, then that would be your challenge. Kind of to your point, though, you can start up a chat here, and it can be a group chat with multiple people. And by doing this here, I can then start to have a chat with them. And if we all got OneDrive accounts, we can even share files as well. So we don't get necessarily, a bunch of tabs and channels and all the things that a team gets, but we could chat and share files at least. So that could be something to do in the meantime while you wait for that power to be given to you. So yeah, I'm glad we were able to figure that one out. I was going to also say to that point about not being able to create a team. Yeah, so that button again only comes with certain people. If you are in an organization that has decided, I do have a couple of customers who have said, yes, let's turn this on for everyone, and anybody that needs to can create a team. And if you're wondering why in the world would anyone do that, I personally think there are a lot of unique advantages to that approach. One, I'd say I typically try to have conversations that say, we don't necessarily have to be quote unquote afraid of sprawl, because you do have a lot of tools in your toolkit for managing the volume. So, I mean, if I get 100 teams that get fired up all of a sudden, and I'm concerned that 50 of them are either short-lived or not needed. One, for instance, we can do automatic expiration policies so that after a certain amount of time, the system says, hey person, I'm going to delete this team you created unless you hit this renew button. That probably would clear out a few of the ones that aren't needed anymore. And also, as an admin, you do have a panel, or a control dashboard where you can see all of these teams and manage them. And so there's ways to manage having a lot of teams. But one of the unique advantages, and the story I like to tell, is when you're really just empowering end users to be able to quickly and easily create a collaborative space, without maybe going through a lot of steps for, getting that done through some formal means. And so, maybe I do just have a need for a team for even just today, right? And by creating a team, end user gets a secure space for those people. They get a file area for sharing and for real-time collaborative co-authoring. They get a chat space. They get it all nicely contained in one area, just with a few clicks of this button. And it doesn't quote unquote cost you anything, right? I mean, it's not like by hitting that button I've created this massive amount of assets that have taken up storage and blah blah blah, right? So this idea of an end user creating something even for a small amount of time, has some value. My best story for that is being at a conference where, if you've ever been to one of those conferences where you're listening to a speaker, and then after a while they say, okay, now for 30 minutes, let's turn to the people at your table and spend some time doing a project X based on what we just talked about, right? And so then you get this, you're now working with your table as a team to work on whatever project that speaker is just assigned. And that's what happened. I was at a conference like that, and I was table 3. We got the assignment. Being that we were all Microsoft folks, where we are able to create our own teams, first thing we did was fired up a team called Table 3. And in a few seconds, we now had a collaborative space there for all of us. I was able to just look at badges that were on everyone's chest to see their names and add them as team members. So of course, all of us have our laptops at the table. They're now getting invites to this team. We're now in there. We're working on documents in real time. We're, and again, in the span of 30 minutes, something we're trying to produce this thing. We do it, right, and it's done, and then I actually forgot all about the team, right? The team is no longer of use to us, unless maybe we wanted to continue to collaborate or keep in touch, maybe as Table 3, after we leave the conference. But a couple months later, or a few months later, I get the message from the system, I'm about to delete this team Table 3 unless you hit renew. And of course I said, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. I just I did not hit renew, just let it do its little cleanup. And so that team is, off into the ether, right? And so, but again, that ability that I had, the ability to create that team allowed for me in a few seconds to create this very useful collaborative space for a very, very temporary amount of time. And the existence of it didn't hurt anyone, and the cleanup of it was able to be automated. So yeah, there is some uses to that. Again, if the organization can kind of get past the sprawl fear, I guess, there is a world where that could be useful for empowering end users. So thanks for that question. It helped me talk about a nice little scenario from back in the day. So hopefully this conversation was useful. I appreciate the comments and questions, and we're about at time here. Unless there's any other questions, maybe I can give you 90 seconds back. But again, hope this is useful. Again, the URL you use to get here, aka.ms/office hours 0365. Will also always be the spot where you can see all the past recordings, including this one. So at some point, that URL will change from the live event link to the recordings. If you need to see this and any of the past other recordings, just use the same link to do that. So I hope you guys have a nice weekend and enjoy your day. I will see you next week.